343 just dropped a massive blog post talking about a ton of really important things regarding Halo Infinite. So in this video, we're going to go over the blog post and break down the most important takeaways. We've got a new release date, armor coding details, live service and free-to-play details, and more, so stay tuned. The first really important and obvious thing to take notice of is the game's new release date. The game's been confirmed to be delayed until November 15th, 2021, which is, like I said, Combat Evolved's 20th anniversary. That's so cool. Phil Spencer was talking about the, quote, seminal moment that he wanted to have with Halo in the new Xbox, and it can't get better than releasing the new Halo game on Combat Evolved's 20th anniversary. We do actually have a big update on Joseph Staten. He confirmed himself that he came onto the team after the July reveal to try and help fix the game up for launch. We know that he's now the creative director, which is a really big deal, and we know he's stepping up to 343 high management, and he's going to take the reins and steer this game in the right direction, guys. Over the course of the next year, they're going to work on building, polishing, and testing the game. So let's talk about what they're doing to actually improve upon the game. I'm going to try and keep it pretty simple and not go real deep into what they're doing to the game on a technical level, but just tell you the basics of what they are improving. And it seems to be good news across the board. They're improving the game in key visual areas such as the lighting, the environment detail, textures, and character fidelity. So they go on to say that in the context of the July reveal, they feel that they really nailed what they wanted to show off on a gameplay perspective. But on the visual side of things, they did fall a little bit short. And it is nice and refreshing to hear them actually just come out and admit that openly, because it was pretty obvious, and we were all thinking it. The demo did have a lot of glaring and just obvious issues, so it is nice for them to come out and acknowledge that. And they did go on to further explain that there's a lot of visual features and assets that either weren't in the build that we saw or that they needed to be fine-tuned, and seemingly they're doing that. And I mean, all the evidence that we need is look at the comparison between July and these new screenshots. The scuffs, the lighting, the shadows, and just everything, all the overall detail, it just looks great. They did even say that they're working on improving the appearance of environment surfaces, and they list specifically rocks, terrain, and the hex walls. And that's really good to hear, because I know that one of the biggest problems that a lot of people had with the demo was these weird hexagonal structures. And personally, I think what makes them look so weird is they just don't really have any detail, they're really flat, and they're just kind of like, they really stick out in the environment, you know, and hopefully by making them look more natural, it'll make them stand out a lot less and be a lot less of an eyesore. They're also working on fixing the foliage, specifically the pop-up and the draw distance. Obviously, they were going to improve upon those things, but it is nice to hear them come out and say that they are working on these things. So they do go on to further explain that the team has faced a lot of challenges optimizing the game for both high fidelity and 60 frames per second. But one quick thing, in this post, they say specifically 60 frames per second, but around the July reveal, kind of when we were learning about the grapple hook in multiplayer and the multiplayer going free to play, they said something about the multiplayer running at 120 frames per second. So maybe that was kind of unrealistic and went out the window, but who knows. In the post, they stressed that the team is really eager to show us the progress that they've made on the campaign in the future, and hopefully we'll see something soon. But now we're going to move on to the more juicy stuff, guys. I'm talking details on live service, armor customization, and how the free-to-play multiplayer is affecting the game at a fundamental level, which is personally what I'm the most concerned about. So they don't give us like an insane amount to go off of here, but we do learn of a few very important things. So I'm just going to kind of read off the important quotes, and we'll discuss them briefly and then circle back. When asked about what Halo Infinite is going to look like post-launch, the response was this: "We'll shift a bit more to monitoring the state of the game and ensuring we react appropriately. Not only is this working with our friends on the community team, but with analytics, ongoing work with user research, etc., to ensure that the team knows what's working and what's not. This means that we will have a direct partnership with you, the players, that we'll use to improve the game experience together over the lifetime of the game." So that's not really anything to be too surprised about. Games these days are usually updated and patched after launch as the meta kind of evolves. They tune some weapons, they add some more maps, that kind of thing is pretty normal. But moving on, lastly, we're working across the studio to form the long-term roadmap for Halo Infinite. What should players look forward to each season? We'll be partnering with the community to plan how the game is going to grow and evolve over time. And then, how do we work with you to ensure that our roadmap can be communicated effectively? And well, there you have it. Seasons are confirmed for Halo Infinite. It's a shocker, I know. But this is what I've been talking about, you guys. It sounds like that they're really doubling down on communication with the community. I know things have been really rocky and just kind of sketchy since the delay, but I think that's just because, like I said, the delay caught them so genuinely off guard that they've just been scrambling to try and get things in order, work things out, try and figure out what is going on and how they're going to get this game out on time and in a way that is not only ensuring a healthy work environment, but also kind of allows the product to be what it needs to be. But can we just take a moment to really acknowledge how nice it's going to be to have a Halo game that's stuffed with new content on a regular basis though? We could be coming up on the content drought being a thing of the past. We just have to hold out for a little bit longer. So now we're going to move on to them talking about kind of the 4 principles or pillars, as they say, that they built Halo Infinite around. Healthy engagement is paramount. We want everyone to play the game in a healthy manner that they enjoy. We're not trying to build a grind machine that burns everyone out in an attempt to get more game time from them. Halo Infinite needs to be a place where we all look forward to spending time. So this is a really important quote because it shows that 343 are really trying to build Infinite in a way that feels fair to the players. They literally say that they're not trying to build a grind machine, so that makes me really happy to hear them say that specifically. Next pillar is we maintain a player-first focus. Think of all the games we've played that have random rewards. Ask people to play a way that they hate just for a new shiny or weaponized FOMO against the player. There will be limited time events, but we don't want to turn free time into a chore. We're not all about that. Everyone should enjoy their time with Halo Infinite. So here I find it really interesting how they say that some games weaponize fear of missing out or FOMO against the player. Things like limited time items in shops or one-off events are something that have just really become a really common practice in games these days, and in my opinion, not for the better. We've seen really drastic examples of this. I don't need to list them off. You already have some personal experience and ideas in your head, I'm sure. But I want to acknowledge that they just confirmed that there will be limited time events, which is to be expected, but could also be pretty cool if done right. I actually got a video coming up on that soon, so stick around for that. But they also announced seasons, and with seasons, probably a season pass. That's just kind of obvious, and we've seen them experimenting with it in MCC. Let's move on. Next pillar, unambiguous value. If someone invests their time or money in the game, they should understand what they're getting and that it will be worth more than the investment. Examples of this in practice include no loot boxes, either through engagement or any premium route, and we're not selling power or giving an unfair advantage in any game via any route. So this is just another obvious thing that's great to hear, because they had confirmed no loot boxes in the past, and here they further state basically no, Halo Infinite is not going to be pay to win, which is an obvious win for us. This actually kind of makes me wonder if they consider Halo 5's Warzone mode to be pay to win. Because in my opinion it is. You pay for loot boxes, and in the loot boxes you get different weapons, power-ups, and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if we maybe could see a different variation of that. I really hope not, because I personally, this might be a hot take, I really don't enjoy Warzone. I don't like how they crammed armor into the loot boxes that were filled with random weapons and just garbage, and it was really bad for me, especially because I never touched Warzone. My only way to unlock armor was to open the Warzone pack, so it was like I was just getting all this random garbage and no armor, and it was just really frustrating. But moving on. And the final pillar, always be listening, learning, and experimenting. The live team is all about growth and iteration. We build and support some fun content, but there will be times when things don't go as planned or where something we tried didn't land well. There will also be times when we believe in ideas and want to give them a chance in the wild, and we ask that you be understanding as we try them out. These will be moments for us to learn and grow. It'll require a close partnership with our players, where we can talk about what happened and what we were trying to do, and be transparent in our plans to move ahead as much as we can. You know, this is something that I really think that we should all give 343 props for. They have been so genuinely good about listening to the community feedback these last few years. I mean, look at how they turned MCC around. They not only fixed it, but they added new features, game modes, and they finally brought Halo to PC now with crossplay. I mean, that's a huge deal. The game is 5 years old now, guys. I mean, that kind of thing just doesn't happen very often, and it shows that 343 do care about this franchise and the fans. In the blog post, they do also state how important enabling player expression is for the game, saying, quote, "We want everyone to build their dream Spartan. We are always looking for more ways to customize in-game personas and give the players options. My team knows that our long-term players have favorites that they love and may have for 2 decades. We want to make sure that Halo Infinite players will be able to get their old favorites, as well as find new favorites at launch and as we expand over the months post-launch. Much like MCC, I want to bring everything to Infinite eventually. So I want to take a second. 343 is obviously pulling a lot of inspiration from Halo Reach for this game. We see this in the new assault rifle, and in the new screenshots we see George's armor set. I mean, look at all the armor. All this armor is from Reach. Not to mention Shadows of Reach, which is about going back to Reach after the events of Halo 5, which is pretty good actually. If you haven't read it, you should. So it is good to know that they do understand that legacy armor is something that is really important to a lot of people, and hopefully we'll see more classics added back over time, like Rogue, Hayabusa, and Katana. Those all need to come back. I'm gonna be honest, I will shamelessly drop $10 on the Katana just so I can have it again. So now we're going to move on to talking about how free-to-play is affecting the game at a fundamental level with its monetization, its unlock systems, yada yada yada. Fair warning, really long quote, so bear with me. We see and hear the current concerns of our community, specifically right now around codings, and we look to our systems to make sure we are doing the right thing both for our players and their ability to represent themselves, as well as what is right for a free-to-play service-driven title. Yes, being free to play does mean that there will be some premium cosmetics, but players will still obtain tons of customization content through things like playing campaign, challenges, skill, special events, legacy rewards such as the Halo 5 Spartan Rank 152 reward, the progression system, and more. Okay, so this is exactly what I think we all wanted to hear, that despite the game being free, there's still going to be a ton of ways that we're going to be able to earn items the traditional way, and not having everything being locked behind a paywall. From what they wrote here, it sounds like things could pan out a lot like what we discussed in my How Halo Infinite Should Be Monetized video, and personally I think that's good news. Continuing with the quote, "We will always provide value for pure engagement and simply playing the game. We believe that providing value isn't exclusive to monetary transactions. It's also about making sure you're properly rewarded for the time you're investing into the game. Players that play for free will also be able to unlock items across a multitude of different customization types to allow them to represent themselves in-game." So I'm going to interject here. So again, they're just reiterating that even if you play for free, there are still going to be things that you can unlock for free, which is awesome, frankly. How hard it will be, though, remains to be seen. But let's move on. Halo 5 didn't do a great job at rewarding our most engaged players, Spartan Rank 152s, so we've added a few tokens of appreciation in Halo Infinite to make up for that. Below you can see 2 of those tokens in the form of an exclusive armor coating and weapon coating. We've also used our learnings there to better structure the player rewards in Halo Infinite. Alright, so let's check out these rewards. I'm going to throw them up on screen. So it's a pretty cool coating, to be honest. It's called Watchdog. Both the armor and the weapon coating are pretty awesome, I think, but not enough to make me grind Halo 5. Sorry. So now is when they start discussing the armor coatings more in detail, and we do have some really good details on that, so let's have a look. And fair warning, again, this is a big one. In previous Halo titles, we had a series of inputs that were simple RGBs in primary and secondary channels. For Halo Infinite, we didn't feel that flat colors in a singular pattern were good enough. The coding system allows us to define color, wear and tear, patterns, and materials on a region-by-region basis on the Spartan or anything in the game, be it armor, weapons, vehicles, or even environment elements like fuel barrels. To get to our design vision, we need to make an exceedingly difficult decision to move away from a system that was in the game from early days, primary and secondary color. This decision was not made lightly, but it has laid the foundation for greater detail and variation when it comes to color customization. In addition to getting better variation, we can also create coatings much faster than we could create weapon skins in Halo 5, which will allow for even better variation over time. Additionally, with coatings now being their own customization option, we can also use them as rewards for player accomplishments or even create bespoke ones for certain occasions. Lastly, coatings use smaller digital footprint and let us add new ones to the game without massive patches or taking up tons of disk space, which is a learning from Halo 5. We looked at the system and we understood the concern. In our recent value balancing pass, which was a direct result of community feedback around coatings, we have looked hard at how many coatings are in the starting set and how many, and of what quality, are unlocked via engagement versus other systems. So there's a lot to unpack here. And honestly, in my opinion, when they actually explain it to us like this and with this much detail, it doesn't seem as bad as many of us thought it was going to be. Seeing how much more detail is being fleshed out in the game and on characters is cool, but I am still concerned with a few things. So first off, how many hundreds of coatings are there going to have to be? And are we going to be able to destroy, trade, or sell the ones that we don't want? I'm also really concerned about the UI being able to account for all the coatings because there's going to be so many of the goddamn things. And I am still worried about having to pay for all the cool ones that aren't basic RGB as they call it. So a couple other cool things to note is the way that they designed coatings on a technical level is going to allow the game to not take up so much disk space, which, if I remember correctly, Halo 5 is like literally 100 gigabytes, which is just insane. The other thing that really stood out to me is after the whole armor coatings backlash debacle, they did take a step back and reevaluate how many coatings we were going to get at the start and how we unlock coatings in the future. Which is good news for us because, honestly, especially given that information, it sounds like it was going to be pretty egregious. I'm hoping that we dodged a bullet. But moving on to armor customization, they do say that all the armor options like helmet and helmet attachments, chest and chest attachments, all the option types from Halo Reach are coming back and that there's going to be even more. They even state that they have a special surprise for visors that will be shown soon. And here's my prediction on what this is right now. I think we're going to be able to change the details on the visor. So if you look at Chief's helmet, he's always had this weird geometric pattern on his, and I think that's what it's going to be. I think there's going to be a bunch of these that we can unlock and choose from, and we're going to be able to swap them in and out. So I think we're going to be able to customize not only our visor color, but the pattern on the visor, which I think is really cool to think about. So to finish off, they say that they're not done showing us how we can change up our Spartan and Infinite and that we're going to see more in the future. The blog is summarized with a single quote that is so short but is so important. Quote, "To round up a little, no loot boxes, no randomness or items that influence the sandbox and gameplay." So not only does it reiterate all the things from the blog post, but they emphasize Halo Infinite is focused on sandbox gameplay. Halo Infinite really truly seems like it's going to be a return to form, you guys. With everything going on about the game being seemingly all doom and gloom, this has single-handedly re-sparked my hype for the game. To see so many of my personal concerns being pretty much erased, or at the very least to be given more information, and so much of it is so refreshing. I'm not kidding, guys. My script summarizing and like skimming over these details in the blog post is 8 pages. I'm gonna make another video really reacting and analyzing the new screenshots next because there is a lot of information that we can pull from these, so watch out for that soon. But I hope you guys did get some closure and peace of mind from this video because I know I did. But if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you're new, subscribe and stick around for the Halo coverage that I've got coming up. Thanks so much for watching if you got this far, and until next time you guys, have a good one.